Right. Well, let's get started. Morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know it's week 3 of the semester, and I know you've probably got lots of other things that you could be doing. But I'd like to invite you all to this webinar, looking at how the current implications around the Web of Science delisting some of the journals. And at last count, I think there was probably 90 journals that the Web of Science has delisted, and I'm sure that we will be intrigued to know why that is the case. I've invited both Janice and Emily from the library, who are our subject librarians, to talk to us about this today. On their agenda, they're going to talk about some of the metrics that we can then be thinking about when we're looking at submitting journals, papers to some journals, what delisting may mean for us as researchers. This new phenomena that some of us are becoming a little more aware of is the mega journals, and how we then thinking about paying for open access. So I don't want to ramble on. Without further ado, I will now pass the microphone over to Janice and Emily. And if you have any questions in between, please feel free to either put your hand up or put something in the chat, and I'll make Janice and Emily aware that you have a question. So please sit back and enjoy this great presentation by our subject librarians. Janice, over to you.
Thank you, Martin. Good morning, everybody. My name is Janice. I'm the Associate Librarian for Academic Support in the library. Thank you for this invitation. I think it was very timely for us to also take a look and also take this chance to touch base with the School of Nursing faculty. I mean, we've never done this before, and I thought it's very timely for us to start something like that, and maybe eventually see how we can do this for the rest of the other faculty. So I think the first question that came to us was when Martin sent us an email like, what happened? My journals got delisted in Web of Science, and people are panicking and stuff like that. So what we did was we put together a couple of slides and hope to, demystify some of these things for you. And more importantly, moving forward, what you're going to do in terms of choosing your journals, what are some of the things that you can be more careful, you might want to be a bit more mindful about, or, to help you decide what kind of journals you want to choose to publish in. So I think the first question everybody goes is like, why did they delist? So this was in March 2023, and Web of Science delisted 82 journals, and they're not going to stop apparently, because it comes across as they are trying to make their whole entire listing a little bit more transparent in terms of the criteria, why they did, what are the kind of measures that they look into evaluating these journals, and then eventually there is a chance where they might even delist it. So there was complaints about how major scientific publishers are suspected of bypassing due process of peer review and publishing articles lacking scientific rigor in exchange for exorbitant publication fees. So this part here that is highlighted basically tells you that it mainly is due to this whole thing about paying exorbitant publication fees without rigor. So it comes down to open access, which I'll talk about it later. So that's the reason why they said they've delisted it. So we've checked, and basically what this means is, moving forward, these journals that were delisted from the Web of Science core collection will no longer be given a journal impact factor. The good news is the past content will not be removed from Web of Science. So if you've published in these journals, the papers will still be in Web of Science. Citation counts will still continue. You will still get people will still be able to see it. You can get still cited, but it's just that moving forward, the new journals will not be indexed, and there will no longer be journal impact factors for these journals. So that is the implication of this delisting. Sorry, it's still morning for me. Anyway, next. So we did a quick search. Emily and I did a quick search in Web of Science, and we went to take a look at how the School of Nursing authors published in the last 5 years. So we noticed that you guys have been publishing a lot of papers in this journal, International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, which is from NDPI. So in the last 5 years, there were about 99 publications from Web of Science. It may not be totally accurate in terms of these numbers, but it's the closest that we can get from Web of Science in terms of nursing, School of Nursing. in the address field. So that's what we did. And but the thing is, if you take a look, there are also other journals that you guys are publishing in, like Frontiers, Elsevier, which is a very good journal, right? A very top journal, Q1 journal. Of course, there are a lot like BMJ, PLOS ONE. These are all, again, open access journals where you pay a lot. Frontiers is definitely one of those that you have to pay to publish in. So these are the kind of journals that you guys have been publishing in. Out of this, out of all these journals, the top one is definitely the one that has been delisted. We've taken a look at the others as well. So let's talk about this journal first. So this journal, over the couple of years, you can see that, in 2022, there were 30 publications. In 2023, that's only 4 because we're only in September, but you can see that the numbers are increasingly going up. I guess it's also because you guys are already very familiar with this journal. You guys are very familiar with the way the whole entire editing process, the aims and scopes, and you are familiar with this. So I guess that's the reason why you guys have this, started to publish more in this journal. Yeah, so you can see that in 2021, there is no longer, the last journal impact factor is 2021. There isn't any one for 2022, so they've delisted and there will no longer be a new one going forward. But if you take a look at in Scopus, this one has a site score of 5.4. Site score basically means that this journal, every paper in this journal would potentially receive an average of about 5.4 citations. So what does that mean? We will take a look again in a while. So let me just go through this very quickly. The next one is out of, we know this journal is very popular among the School of Nursing. The other journals that were delisted that School of Nursing authors publish in is Biomed Research International, where you have 6 publications. It's a Q3 journal in Web of Science. Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine, 5 publications, also Q3, and Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity, but this is just only one. It's a Q2 journal. And you can see that all of these journals were by Hindawi. So again, this is another publisher that, that has been massively impacted by the delisting in Web of Science. So there are a couple of things that we look at when we look at a journal, like would be the impact factor. And this basically means the average number of times the articles from a journal published in the last 2 years have been cited in the JCR. So it looks at the average number of times an article. So it's just very basic. It's just an average number of times an article has been cited. So the more you cite the number of the impact factor will increase will just increase. So some of you guys would be familiar that if you cite and if you have references from the same journal in your paper that you submit, chances of you getting higher would chances of you being accepted by the journal would be higher. That probably is also one way in which the impact factor would increase over the next couple of years, right? Yeah. So this is again something that sometimes publishers do to manipulate impact factor. Next, you have site score, which is something that Scopus is based in Scopus. So you can never find impact factor in Scopus because impact factor is trademarked in Web of Science, and you'll never find impact factor. So impact factor is really just from Web of Science. So in Scopus, they try to come up with an alternative, which is site score. So 2 years is too little, right? So they decided to do a 4 years kind of stuff, right, to compete with impact factor. So what they do is they do an average for 4 years, and this is site score. There is another one that Martin has been telling us that you guys use a lot, which is the SJR, which is the Simago Journal Rank. This is also found in Scopus. This basically uses a weighted citation kind of method. So what it looks at is also looking at the prestige of the journals that cite papers. I find this very difficult to understand because who determines how prestigious it is and stuff like that. I think the harder it is for you to understand, the harder it is for you to use it, and to maybe even harder for you to manipulate, But so these are just numbers these are just different kinds of metrics that you can that you can use to decide which kind of journal you want to publish in. But coming back to Web of Science, so this is something that I would like to show you, which is the Web of Science journal evaluation process. I want to spend a bit of time here to explain that actually in Web of Science, they've got this core collection. This is the whole entire core collection, but they've got several different kinds of indices. So you've got your science, SCIE, let's see, science, but I can't remember.
Social science.
Social science, SSCI, social science, which one?
Citation index
Expanded. And then this is arts and humanities citation index. Yes, yeah. Thank you, Emily. So these three are your very core ones. These are your three core ones. And then you've got this one, which is called ESCI. This one is called the Emerging Science Citation Index. Then you've got your book citation index and then your conference proceeding citation index. See, I remember. But what is important right now here is for you guys to know that there are differences in terms of how they are perceived in terms of quality for the journals that are indexed in these different journals. So what happens is when a journal gets accepted for being in part of Web of Science collection, it usually goes into the ESCI first, the Emerging Science Citation Index. When it gains impact, it goes into the core collection. I mean, any one of these SCIE, SSCI, or AHCI. But if it loses, it goes back down to ESCI again. So basically, my understanding, or I mean, if you want to take a look at this, I feel that ESCI is very much like a test bed. It's like a test bed, a holding room, a waiting room for you to test the quality of this journal, how is everything, how is the journal in terms of the quality and the editorial process before it goes up. And if it maintains its quality, it stays. If it doesn't, it has a potential of losing, and it goes back to ESCI. So personally, I would think that publishing in journals that are in SCIE, SSCI, and AHCI would probably be better than to have it in ESCI. I mean, after all, it's emerging science citation index. This is just one component that you might want to think about. And then this is if it loses quality, eventually it gets kicked out of the Web of Science core collection. And also what happens is Web of Science has actually recently published out its journal evaluation process. For many, many years, Web of Science evaluation process has always been a black hole. Nobody really knows what really went into it. Nobody really knows if there is a process. What is their process? How do they determine what the quality of the journals are for them to index and not index or to drop it? So now they published it, which I think is it's a very good move. It lets you understand it a little bit more. So these are all the different kind of criteria that they use, and I think these are also very good criteria for you to even evaluate journals that are that you choose to publish in, to see if this journal is it's of quality. Yeah. So I think things like, for example, so they've got different kinds of process stages. They've got the initial triage, the editorial triage, and then finally the editorial evaluation. So they look at several things, like, for example, editorial board composition, content relevance, appropriate citations to the literature. So you can't just cite uh, a paper from the same journal, but if it's appropriate, it's very important. And then also they look at impact criteria like author citation analysis, editorial board citation analysis. So they look at all these things. So if you have time and if you're familiar with a journal, I think these are very good indicators of how good a journal would be. If it's robust and if they have all these things in place and it's sound, it gives you an indication of the quality of the journal. So I think these are, again, proxies for us to decide and to evaluate journals. And it's not just based on quantitative metrics, like, for example, journal impact factor, site score, and all the things that I've mentioned about. It's also the qualitative part, right? For example, the kinds of stuff that has been brought up in the Web of Science, this Web of Science evaluation process. I mean, these are very good in this quality of a journal. And also some other criteria, like for example, the aims and scope, are they clear? Oh, and I think like, you know, the databases where they're indexed in, like I mentioned, SCIE versus ESCI. I mean, that there could be a difference here. So you might just want to take note of. And also what happens is Web of Science recently has also published this thing called the journal changes. They've got the master journal list. Sorry, I should mention the master journal list first. They've got a master journal list. Let me show you the master journal list. So they've got now a master journal list where you can go in and take a look all the journals that are listed in Web of Science. Okay, this is the master journal list. Just if you want to take a look and see what kind of journals are indexed, this is where it is. You can download this, but I think the one that I really want to highlight to you is this one, which is called the journal changes. This is very important because it tells you the kind of journals that is being accepted, you know, the ones that are being accepted and they go into ESCI, and more importantly, the ones that are potentially going to be delisted. So these are this happens every month. They've got a new list that they put up every month, and you can download and take a look at it. So anytime you come across a new journal that you think, you know, you want to consider, or you want to be a bit more familiar with it, you might just want to go in and take a look. And you can see this journal, even though in SCIE it's going to do an editorial delisting, it did not even get moved down to ESCI. I mean, I don't know why, but there's something that we might want to, I mean, it's quite interesting to see here.
Janice, how do you know that journal is being delisted?
This is the list. This is the list from Web of Science. So Web of Science.
The whole list of the journal, they're all been delisted.
No, yeah. So the ones that you see here, these are the journals that are going to be delisted.
But how could you tell if you are looking at this?
How could I tell?
Yeah, that's going to be delisted.
This is the list that has been published by Web of Science. So they tell us that in the coming months, these are going to be delisted.
You mean the entire list, not just the one that you...
No, this entire list here, this one here, they show that these are the journals that are going to be accepted in Web of Science. So it is a list that shows the changes to the Web of Science journals. Yeah. So I think it's also good because not only do you see what has been delisted, you can also see what will be accepted.
Yes, that's what I meant. You know, like how would you because this list is a mix of going to be delisted journal as well as something being accepted.
Yeah.
So how could one tell which one is going to be delisted so colleagues will be more aware?
In this, sorry, I mean, I'm not sure if you can see it from my screen, but you see the coverage change here. So these are the journals.
I see.
Yeah, sorry. So maybe I just want to show you this. So this journal, International Journal of Sociology and Language by De Gruyter, is going to be accepted, coverage change, accepted, and then Web of Science call collection.
I see.
So not the whole entire list is going to be delisted, but it shows you the kind of change that will happen. So you've got your coverage change. This column here that shows the coverage change. So it tells you that this journal is accepted versus this journal, Optic, from Elsevier, it's going to be delisting. It's gonna be delisted.
And Janice, you mentioned earlier that we can download this from where?
Yes, let me show it to you.
Sure. Okay,
so it's actually in this master journal list page in Web of Science. So all you need to do is create a free account, and once you create a free account to get to get access to it, and you will see all these journals. So you'll see the list of Web of Science core collection. You will see the monthly changes archive. So this is the monthly changes archive. The one that I showed you just now was the monthly changes archive. So you can download this every month and you can just take a look at it if you want.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Janice, can you send us the link?
Yes, sure. I will send you all the slides later.
Yeah, but I mean now we can in the...
Oh, sure. Let me show you the link.
Yeah.
Let me use the chat.
Can we
thanks, Jenny.
PolyU library? Because PolyU library also have a Web of Science database.
Yes.
Can we go in directly from there?
Not this one. This master journal list is outside of that. Yeah. So this one, because this is not part of that that platform is a external web page where you have to create an account. So it's not in that.
Kim, the link is already in the chat.
Yeah,
chat box,
it's already. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, so that would be this monthly changes archive is very important. So like I said, you can see, and it also explains to you a little bit about what it means. Editorial delisting means journal has been re-evaluated and does not meet one or more of the quality criteria, resulting in a removal from Web of Science call collection, versus production delisting. It means that the journal has been removed from Web of Science call collection due to non-receipt of the content from publisher. So probably over a couple of months and they did not receive anything. So they decided to just, delist it in terms of production. So the editorial delisting one is very, very crucial because it tells you that certain parts of the quality criteria has not been met.
Janice, that's
Yes.
that's an Excel file. So I'm presuming we can edit that Excel file to find the journals that are more specific to us.
Yes. For the journal, for this journal changes list, it's just very simple. It just tells you the title of the journal, the
Right.
publisher, the ISSN, and then the collection that it's in. It doesn't tell you anything more. So it just gives you a list. So after this, you might need to do a bit more checking in the respective databases. Yeah.
Okay.
But does it have all the journals? So if colleagues know the journal, so they can actually identify the journal on the list, or no?
Can you repeat that again?
Oh, I said, will this list be comprehensive that cover all the journals across different disciplines, or no?
Yes.
It
Across
does.
different disciplines. So as long as it's going to be delisted, it will be up here. But you must make sure, but you must be aware of one thing, that this changes every month. So you will not be able to see the one that has been around the last month. So it only puts up the new one, and then the old ones, you can't see the July one anymore. So it gets covered over.
But do they have a record for that then?
We don't have a record for that. I can check and see how you can, you might want to use the Web of Science platform. Let me come back to you. I'll probably add in the slides. If there is a way for us to check in the Web of Science platform to see this change that has been communicated but may have been removed from the master file list, the journal change. Yeah, let me see if I can do that for you.
Yeah. Janice, another question, I guess, earlier on, colleagues encounter, not a lot, but then when it happens, it's not very good. The idea that when they submit the publication or the manuscript to the journal, it is fine. It's Q1, is listed, no problem. But then when it's get to publish, they realize that it has either dropped to become Q3 or it's delisted. How would one know? I mean, during that period, during that, the lapse of time.
You wouldn't know because JCR they release it every time in June. They release it, or if I'm not wrong, every June or in August, they will release the JCR for the previous year. So every year it does that. So at some certain point, they'll cut off the data, and then they'll churn and prepare the JCR, and then they'll publish that one the next year. So this year you'll see the 2022 one. Next year, you'll see the 2023 one. So you won't be able to see what is being changed. I mean, this delisting part here already gives you an idea that next year it's not going to be in JCR, right? So this already tells you, and this is going to tell you that it will slowly have an impact factor, but it will take time to climb because it just got accepted. So I think these are just indicators for you to know. Yeah.
So some kind of guide with this list. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay,
Any other?
Yeah, Janice, because you talk about the JCL, because I always look at the JCL because PolyU Library actually can go into the JCL, yeah. So that means it's a yearly. So in between, there's something happen will not show, right, in the JCL.
Sorry, can you say that again? I think I can't.
So like for the JCL, it will be kind of annually report.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So in between there's some like delays or something, then we have to look at the list that
yes.
Us, like the
yes.
Science that
yeah. Jenny just showed us in the chat group, if you guys go in and take a look, it says that Web of Science shows the changes for the last 5 months. So it's not 1 month, but it's the last 5 months. So it's not a consolidated list. It's I think it's a list it's a new list every month. So you will be able to see the last 5 months. So this will give you an indication of the journals.
Okay,
Yeah.
so can you also show us like for the JCR, like for example, that journal that we publish quite often, the International Journal Environmental Research and Public Health, but still in the list, in the JCR.
It's not there anymore.
It's there. I'm here.
Wait, let me see.
So I want to see how do we know that it has been delisted?
This journal?
Yes.
Okay, I know what you mean. It's still in there because you will see that it's 2021. You don't see the 2022 indicator because it's a new indicator now. Let me go.
Yeah. So can you tell us like how to look at it because it's still there? Yeah.
Sorry. I need to go JCR, sorry. So this journal, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So for this journal, it doesn't quite tell you that it has been delisted from here, but you can see that the impact factor is, let me see, you will see the impact factor. Where's the, let me show you the impact factor. The journal impact factor is 2021. It doesn't show you the 2022. So this year it's already 2022. So this tells you that it's been delisted. Yeah, because now this year it will be 2022 JCR impact factor. If you look at other journals, they will give you a journal, the journal impact factor is 2022. Yeah, so one way would be, for example, if you are in Web of Science and you do, I don't know, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, for example, if you're searching or you're already in Web of Science, okay, this is bad. I shouldn't be doing this. But when you're in Web of Science and when you look at a journal, you can click through to see the information. So make sure that the impact factor is the latest one. As you can see, some of these impact factors are not the latest. I should show you. Yeah, you see some of them, these are the top journals that are published by School of Nursing. So you see most of them are 2022, right? Except this one is in 2021. You've even got one lecture. I don't know why it's 2025, but lecture notes in computer science is actually quite a popular one, but I don't know why it's in 2005 being the last impact factor year. It could be because the title was changed or something like that. I don't know. This one I have to check. But you can see that majority of them are all 2022 impact factor, but 2021 is not. I hope this helps. Yeah. Any other further questions?
Janice, another question is, I think Frontiers, I mean, it is a very popular journal.
Yes.
But recently I noted that they have a lot of I don't know, how would you describe that? Like they maybe Frontiers in Psychiatry and then Frontiers in Public Health, Frontiers in whatever. I mean, it's getting more and more. And then I recognize that some are not, some are more prestigious than the others, especially the earlier ones. And the and then many of those later ones might even not be Q1 journal. So how would one kind of differentiate that? I mean, especially for colleagues, you know, because they look at Frontiers in Psychiatry, maybe it's a very good journal, but then they're not going into Frontier in Psychiatry, but I don't know whether subsidiary is the right word, you know, but then it's the other Frontiers journal that they submitted, and it's not as good.
Yeah, Frontiers is actually it's a Q1 journal.
Yes, on its own.
Yeah, on its own. It's Frontiers Psychiatry is actually Q2 in JCR. if I'm
Yeah.
not wrong. Yeah, Frontiers. And the APC is actually quite expensive. It's actually 3,000
Yeah,
US
and
dollars.
yeah, that's why I kind of discourage colleagues to kind of go for that, man.
Yeah, and you know, Journal of Affective Disorder by Elsevier, Q1 itself in JCR is 3,210 US dollars. It's actually cheaper than the Frontiers for an Elsevier journal. Anyway, this comes back down to the next question I want.
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you.
Which is open access. Do you pay or do you not pay? And if I'm paying, how do I pay for a credible journal? I think this is again the other question. I think what happened was with the whole payment of APC, a lot of people think that, you know, just by paying, it will make my publication open, but it mixes up between, you know, quality and traditional subscription models of journals. So for example, we know that gold open access is where journal like Frontiers, everything is totally paid for. All the articles that are in that journal is all, you have to pay to get published basically in that journal. Whereas there is another kind of journal, which is called what we call as hybrid open access journal. Like for example, the Journal of Affective Disorder by Elsevier, of which it is a hybrid journal because only 50% of that journal is open access. You have a choice to pay to publish and make that article open access, but you have to be accepted first. And if it's not, and if you don't pay APC, basically only subscribers will be able to read your article. So that's what we call as a hybrid open access journal. There's a difference, like PLOS is all gold open access, Frontiers too, MDPI too. So these are all the gold open access, and versus hybrid journal access, which means that titles will give you a choice if you want to make your article open by paying. So I think this whole entire thing about paying, everybody kind of like confuses that there is actually two different kinds of journals out there. I'm not saying that hybrid is definitely better than gold. It really depends on the field. It really depends on the journal, but the tendency is people prefer hybrid journals because the kind of impression is that it's of higher quality. So I think this is something that, you know, it comes back down to your field, the kind of journals that you are, you know, where you're targeting for and stuff like that. But this is something that we might want to be a bit more careful about when we're choosing the kind of journal, and not to get confused between gold. As long as I'm paying, I might as well just pay for one that accepts me, and it's easier for me to get accepted. I think that is going to be something that it's a false sense of security, and it may not be that good. So, you know, coming back to what Angela was saying about, you know, how there's so many kind of journals that came up. So there's this thing called the mega journals that are happening right now. So mega journals, let me just take a quick look and see where's my mega journal. Oh, I need to move this. Mega journals. Let's take a look at what mega journals are. So mega journal is like they basically are designed to be much larger than traditional journal by exercising low selectivity among accepted articles. So PLOS one is one, and it's a very lucrative publishing model. And basically they have broad coverage of different subject areas. They accept articles for publication based on whether they're technically sound rather than perceived importance, and they take an article processing charge. And again, some other less universal characteristics would be, for example, fast turnaround time and stuff like that. So I think, you know, mega journals is one way in which publishers start to play a different kind of business model, since they cannot let go of subscription business. They have to create new journals that would be purely open, and hence mega journals came about. So this is something that, you know, you might want to be careful about. I'm not saying that mega journals are bad, but definitely mega journals is better than predatory journals, which is something that you need to be very, very to distinguish between. Not all paying journals, or not all paying, not all gold open access journals are bad. There are some publishers that that border on being predatory. So you have to be careful about that. And this is something that you need to be able to distinguish. So for predatory journals, we've explained a little bit about what predatory journals are. Basically, you receive a random and unsolicited email from an unknown publisher inviting you to publish an article. Actually, a lot of our PhD students received it, like, my thesis is going to be published into a book. I'm so happy. Should I, pay money to get my thesis published? These are something that you have to be very careful about, even for our faculty staff. This is something that they need to be able to, once they see something like that, there should be a red flag should go off somewhere, that they need to be careful. And a lot of these, they don't provide rigorous editorial services, and they tend to be of low quality. And most of their websites actually tell you that they're indexed in this. They have an impact factor, but you really have to double check and make sure that they really do have the impact factor. So this is something that you need to be careful about. Not all mega journals, not all paying models of publishing is predatory, but you need to be careful about it. Questions so far? No? Okay. So so this is just one that you need to be aware of, that there are a lot of new models out there, a lot of new journals out there that is bringing up, because publishers themselves are just also trying to battle between the changing landscape in terms of open access publishing, and the whole scholarly communication landscape is just changing. So they are also trying to battle it out and trying to figure it out. I want to believe that they're not trying to get more money, but yeah.
Janice says there was a question in the chat.
Sure.
Can we predict that journals that are highly potential to climb from from Q2 to Q1, are we able to predict, based on the lists that you've spoken about, that we can say, well, this journal is going to go from Q2 to Q1, or do we have to wait for the yearly round to say, oh, look?
Usually you have to wait, because Q2 and Q1, what's going to happen this time is that they have also changed the Q2 to the quartile thing in JCR. So basically what happens is, last time there used to be many decimal points. Now they reduce the decimal points in such a way where there could be two journals that are of the same impact factor, which means that each quartile may no longer be the same size. So that's what they've done to JCR. So maybe sometimes even in Q2 you may have more journals, because Q2 and Q3 you have more journals, because the impact factor is similar. So you may have what do you call that, same rank, for example, of journals. So that it's going to be tough for you to predict. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And also, yes, Web of Science has already been delisted. Thank you, Emily. Okay, so coming back to open access. So the library do have some agreements that we have entered, and of which you guys can have a waiver of. So it would be these publishers. So you've got Cambridge University Press, IOP. So these journals will give you a waiver of APC. So if you're publishing in these journals, you don't have to pay APCs, and you can even choose hybrid journals like Cambridge University Press. It's even in both gold and hybrid journals. So that's something that you might want to take note of. All right, and we're going to add more. There will be new ones coming up soon, like next year. So do take a look. Do come by and take a look anytime, and do look out for our emails when we send it out. It will be very exciting next year. We've got one very big one coming up. Okay, the other way in which you want to make your article open access is of course the archival of your final accepted manuscript. This is an alternative if you don't have the funds to pay APC. There is another way to make your article open access, which is to archive it into PIRA. Of course, it will be slower. It's not immediate open access, but there is still a way to make it open access, and it's usually, and the library would always check the self-archiving policy of the publisher, and then make the relevant version of the manuscript available at the appropriate time. So the library will take care of all of that. So just put it up into PIRA, archive it into PIRA, and we'll work on that. So that's an alternative if you're not going to pay, if you don't want to pay for APCs. So I think finally, yeah.
Yeah, Janice, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I also encountered that like for those who subscribe the journal, you don't, even though not paying the APC, but there's a embargo period, right?
Yes.
Something
Yes.
embargo period.
Yes.
So that means that the people cannot really access for that
The
period.
embargo period, are you related? Do you mean that the embargo of the final accepted manuscript being open to public?
Yeah, or
Yes.
is that only for the subscriber only, right?
So basically what happens is, for a journal, if the library has already subscribed to it, you can definitely access that article. But if you want to make it open access, publishers normally have a policy to say it's going to be embargoed for 1 year or 6 months or like 2 years, some even 2 years. The reason is they want to protect their business model. So that there will usually be an embargo period, but it will be made open access once that embargo period is over. Yeah, it's really just to protect their subscription model, their subscription business. They've already accepted money from, they've already received money from libraries. So naturally they have to allow these people to have first access to these subscribed journals. Yeah. Okay, so that is what I want to say. And of course, increasing visibility would be the next part. Open access. This, it's really to ensure that your articles are easily discoverable. So open access is definitely one way. So if you can pay for it, that would be great. The other part would be the archival of it. Also for discoverability, ensure that the journals that you're publishing in are indexed in good, in core citation indexes like Web of Science and Scopus. This will allow greater discoverability. And of course, ensuring that your profiles are up to date, especially in ORCID, that your publications are up to date there. People can discover your works, and people with paid subscription will be able to click through eventually to the article. So all of these things will help increase the visibility of your works and your research. So let me just find for you my tips to increase your research visibility. So these are, we've got a guide here as well to show you how to increase your visibility. Yeah, so all these links I would eventually put it up on the library webpage. I mean, not the PowerPoint, and you guys can access it. There's another one on open access publishing here that you guys can take a look. So basically I'm done. I've kind of covered everything. I'm free to, see what kind of questions or comments that you guys might have.
Thank you, Janice. That's very informative information that you gave us about journals. And I'm sure that if colleagues here don't have any questions, I'm sure they'll come back to you at some point in the future.
Sure, send us an email, no problem.
Here, can you help us? But in the interim, does anyone have any questions for our library team concerning this issue around delisting and how we might use their skills and making sure that we are targeting appropriate journals for our visibility, if you like? Does anyone have any pressing questions? Please feel free to use the chat if you're a little bit embarrassed about asking.
Well, actually,
Jerry.
I have one question, and actually, when we the delisted journal come out, and some of us may not until the last minute realize that the journal is going to be delisted, but actually some journals I'm not quite surprised to see those journals to be delisted, because when I read the paper and the experience of submissions and so my question is there any possibility for the library to provide a list that may be at risk of some journal which may at risk of being delisted, or pay more attention to, or careful special attention should be paid to this journal, because seems this journal are not scientific rigorous enough, or so that we can want our members to reconsider before praying to this journal.
Actually, it will be very tricky for us to come up with a list like that, because based on what do we come up with this criteria, and how do we decide what is and what is not? And I think with different and things change over time. I think the best people would be you guys, because you guys go through the submission process, you guys go through the editorial process, the peer review process. I think that would be the best indicator for you, actually, when you look through, and you guys are really the researchers. You guys would really know it more. You guys get a sense of it. But I can generally tell you out there that there are certain perceptions. So I think MDPI is one that is that I would be very careful about. Because they tend to be on the border between a predatory and an open access publisher. So I would try to steer away from NDPI. But honestly, a lot of poly authors publish in MDPI. So I would feel that, you know, it's best to go with the tried and tested esteemed publishers as much as you can. Hindawi was bought over by Wiley. Nobody expected it, and I think Wiley was also a bit surprised. And there is yeah, exactly. MDPI, Hindawi. Jenny has just sent out this thing called the Bills list. Actually, Bills list is a list that you might want to take a look at. These are all the journals that they came up with. So Bill is this guy who came up with predatory scholarly open access publishers. MDPI was once in it. It came out, and then I don't know how, if it's still in there. I don't know if this list is still going to be updated, because this guy got into a legal case because of putting up this list. But I think coming back to it, it's not about the list. I think it's looking at the kind of evidence that you see, you know, like the qualitative part of a journal, for you to determine if that journal is something that you want to publish in. I think those criteria are very important criteria that to give us an indication, like the ones that Web of Science put up here. Yeah, these are very, very important parts for you to take note of. It's like, you know, how do you smell fraud? How do you smell scam? It's that awareness, right? Once you see similar traits like this, your red flag would go up. So I guess it's that experience, it's that awareness. And once you turn on that awareness, it's very fast for you to pick it up. Yeah, I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Janice, this is I think maybe Jerry's question is about how the library can help us, you know, as researcher. I guess we might be good in, you know, doing the research and trying to identify the relevant journals and all that. But then in terms of the progression of the journal, like whether it's going to be delisted or change its quartile, would that be any way that the library website, I mean, we can actually click in there and maybe get some kind of hint as to, this kind of journal under this publisher might be at risk, you know, that kind of thing, before we even trying to decide which journal that we might be, you know, submitting to?
I mean, we only know from Web of Science that list. One way we could do is, you know, we might want to put up some information somewhere to consolidate this information, but you know, it's an open information. So one way would be for us to put things together. We can think about it, but it's going to be very hard for us to, you know, do an analysis for us to draw out, you know. Yeah. So what I mean, the only thing I could think about is to consolidate the delisting journals and put it up somewhere so that, you know, you guys can go in and take a look, and then we can update that regularly, for example, rather than for you guys to go in individually to get the monthly reports.
I think that would be very, very helpful. Yeah,
okay.
So that we know about where to look for those
okay, let me and my team work on this, and then we will update you if when the page is up.
Yeah, thanks very much.
No problem.
So it could be like, from what I understand Angela's saying, so these are the September delisted journals. to the October delisted journal, so that, that it's, you know, it's just a list there, so that people go, oh, I'll just make sure they're being delisted first before I submit to them, because that would be crazy.
Yeah. Okay, we will work on that
Okay.
and come back to you guys. Thank you, Angela.